Today, you have the challenge and the gauntlets thrown down to not wait till tomorrow. To pick up the phone and tell that person you love that you love them. To not wait one more second to make that call that's been digging in your gut saying that's time to make that call. It's time to reach out. It's time to offer the forgiveness. It's time to be more present. It's time to heal whatever needs to be healed, whatever is broken. Time is ticking. It's ticking. It's ticking. And we are called to soar like eagles into the future. Yes? I'm going to start with a poem, since we're honoring Michael Burke a little bit. This is not one of Michael Burke's, but it is as eloquent as his. I invite you to see yourself in this poem, in every word and every idea, and allow yourself to live and breathe it in every cell of your being. Once we were earthbound, feet tangled in roots of doubt and dreams pressed beneath the weight of solitude. We gazed at the sky, at the silver sweep of stars, at the great blue hush of morning, whispering to ourselves, if only, if only. If only we could lift beyond what we have known. If only the wind could carry us. If only the impossible could speak our names. And then one voice rose, and then another, and another, and another. Hands reached out, hearts aligned, and suddenly the air was not just empty space. It was a path. It was a promise. It was a possibility. We built wings from hope, from a shared vision, from the unbreakable weave of many spirits, daring to ascend as one. And we rose. We rose higher than fears, higher than the weight of never before. The sky, once distant and far, unfurled before us. The stars, once out of reach, pulsed like kindred souls, guiding us forward. And we became something more than ourselves. We became an ascension, a force, a constellation of will, determination, vision, and wonder. And we claimed the skies. We claimed them on the wings of 1,000 angels, lifting us beyond the clouds, beyond the known, beyond the limits that we once accepted. We found the heavens, not as gods, but as dreamers and as visionaries made limitless together. Our hearts turned to light, our dreams and voices rose in harmony with the wind of our spirits united, ascending the lofty heights like eagles, reclaiming their domain. Alone, we were but dreamers, but together we are flight. Alone, we were mere mortals, but together we became angels with skin on, eagles with unbounded realities, and mortals finding the infinite power of love that is our collective heart. And now there is no ceiling. There's no horizon too far. The impossible is only a threshold that we cross. We're not just reaching for the stars. We have become them. We are in a series for the month of February centered around a very little word, a very simple word, and the word is together. Say that with me. Together. Together. There's energy there. There's power there. That consciousness of together brings eagles and angels and human beings all together to ascend the heights. So our journey through the month of February has been finding the love that is in the together. We began week 1 making a joyful noise together. Do you remember? We made a joyful noise together. And then last Sunday, we healed more deeply together. Today we're going to fly farther together. Fly higher together. Say that with me. Flying higher together. You know, there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, I know you've heard it, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. You know, I was reminded of a story. I had a lot of foster kids. I raised a lot of kids. And one year, the foster kids all got together with the other adults in the household, and they raised money to buy me a trampoline. They knew I had a dream. I had a vision. And they showed up at the park, and these kids had all put this trampoline together. And it became my exercise in my younger years. This 62-year-old body doesn't want to get on a trampoline too much these days. But we used to jump, and the kids loved it as much as I did. And we'd go out there, the kids would be bouncing on that trampoline for hour after hour after hour, and they always said, I want to go higher. I want to go higher. And then we realized that they could go higher than they could individually. Where two or more are gathered on a trampoline is the possibility of going higher. And the heavier the body, the higher the kid would go. You know, it was dangerous because the net was only so high. We were bouncing kids. If you time it right, if you time it just right, that kid could go much higher than the net. On the other side of that net was about a 200-foot drop into the creek. But the reality is, where two or more are gathered in the name of a possibility, there is an increase, an amplification, and there is a higher ascension, a higher altitude. Now, did it happen overnight? No, you have to work at it. You got to get your timing down. If you don't time it right, it could really hurt your back. And what I realized with a heavier body, that if you got 4 kids to time it right, you could also go higher. There was no limit to the heights that we could ascend on that trampoline, and I remembered that with such joy. The joy on each of those kids' face as they would go, yes, I've made it, I've made it. And that's the work that we do here at Unity North. Sometimes it's a little bit rough. We're on the trampoline of consciousness and life, and we're trying to figure it all out. And sometimes it hurts, sometimes we fall. But there's that moment when the timing is right that we go, yes. And the joy that I see on the faces of people whose dreams have been realized, whose vision for their life is more, not just a dream and a vision anymore, it is a current reality. That's the work that we do here. How many people have lived a dream, have realized a dream based on the community that you gathered around on the trampoline of life? Do me a favor and just express it out. Thank you to those people. Say it. Thank you. Hand on your heart and really say it. Thank you. Thank you. Together indicates a lot of things. It indicates partnership, collaboration, cooperation, co-creation, oneness, alliance, accord, companionship, closeness, agreement, and synergy. That's the work we do here. Breathe that in. Thank you. Thank you. Let us never take for granted the combined where 2 or more are gathered in the name of your ascension, flying like an eagle, seeing you as the eagle that you have always been, even when you can't see it for yourself. That exists in the room. We will lift you up. We will buoy you up like the water, and we will hold you in the highest place. And I don't take that for granted, so I say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you. When these things are present, there is a spiritual increase and an amplification and acceleration of dreams and of visions and of possibilities. An increase that absolutely makes the impossible possible. Last week, I asked us all to get in touch with the power of our stories. I hope you shared your story. I challenged you all to lay on the altar of community here and community out there the power of sharing your human story of despair and of triumph, your story of darkness and victory as a means of achieving and accomplishing more together. I asked you to lay not just your story on the altar, but your ears on the altar, because I must be listening to your story as you listen to mine. Share your story, listen to another, speak it in order to heal it. Let's say that together. I speak it in order to heal it. I speak it in order to heal it. I give it voice so it can either be released or amplified through the power of witness. Anybody ever just felt the power of God when somebody was just bearing witness to what you were going through? That's holy. That's sacred. Yet it is only step one. You know, step one is probably the easiest one. Lay your story on the altar, put your ears on the altar, and let's exchange bearing witness to each other's story. There's more. If all we do is continually bear witness to the pain, to the difficulty, the regret, and the wounds, we're actually working against the healing that we're seeking. If all we are doing in step one, and we don't go any farther, is bearing witness to the victim story, or how you were wronged, or how it was so hard, we have not completed the journey. And we're actually working against the altitude that we want to reach. And it feels like a bunch of people on a trampoline, all just doing their own same thing, sharing stories, but nothing gets healed. Nothing gets done. Nobody flies. We're so grounded to the story that we stay stuck. We stay stagnant. Anybody know anybody like that? I've been one of them. And so I just wanted to go find the next person to hear my story. When you got tired of my story, I'd go find somebody else to tell my story to. And that would wear off and get boring for them, so I'd go find somebody else to validate that I was a victim to my life. I was a victim to my circumstances. It's not a really good place. It's basically hell on earth is what it is. Anybody ever been to hell on earth doing that? Yeah. I think I recognize you. I think I saw you there. Step 2 is the much more difficult, and that's the challenge to elevate the vibration of our stories, to elevate the altitude of our stories once they've been shared. We elevate the stories by serving as stars, as eagles, and as angels, courageously guiding each other beyond the limitations of the story. This week was really interesting. 2 guys in this church who I dearly love. They are rock stars in this community. They show up all the time to do really good things, and I love them with all my heart. 2 brothers that I care for. I'd be there in a heartbeat. They got into a little bit of a spat. They got a little bit into their fussy place, and they were both having a separate story. And I just decided it was time to get out of the story. And somebody told me this at one point, and I passed it on to them. I said, it's time for the 2 of you to put your big boy pants and get over it. Put your big boy pants on and get over it. Is that loving? Was that loving? Wouldn't it have been more loving if I just listened to each of their stories about how they were wronged, or they were less than, or they weren't good enough, they weren't an ego? Sometimes love is tough love. And it was a good laugh. I used humor. They both laughed about it. And then within 24 hours, the rift was healed. The story was healed. The story changed because somebody had the guts to say it's time to do the pattern interrupt. It's time to stop. It's time to move forward. And I honor both of my brothers who absolutely recognized it. And both of them at some point or another have called me out on my stories. And suddenly good was happening again. Good got stopped, and then good was then happening again. We challenged ourselves to put on our big boy and our big girl pants. That's a spiritual concept. Always done in love. You don't do it in attack, but you do it in love. We elevate our stories by serving as stars and courageously guiding each other above the limitations. This is the movement from victim to victor. Anybody ever make that journey? It can be a long journey. Victim to victor. It is the movement from the oppressed to the overcomer. Anybody here an overcomer? They had to go through the oppression. You had to tell the story until it was like, this doesn't feel so good anymore. Now I am the overcomer. This is from the persecuted to the perseverant. I've got stories. I've got some good ones. I'll make you cry. And they make my soul cry. They make the eagle and the angel within me cry too. And there comes a point where we have to be the interruption, the patterned interruption for others. Someone said after last week's dialogue about sharing our stories and our ears on the altar that you have to also be willing to give up the story. Call them souvenirs of hell. Richard Croker, I think, is in the room. The first talk I ever gave, I talked about the souvenirs of hell, that we carry them around like rocks in our pocket. And we pass them around. Here's my story from hell. Here's my souvenir. And it's all polished. Clunk, clunk, clunk. The time comes when those souvenirs of hell are actually weighing you down to the point that you're never going to ascend the heights. And we have to get rid of them. That's what we do here. Give me your souvenir of hell, and I'll give you mine. And let's see if we can't go to the river and chuck him in and let him go. Many people are telling the same story over and over and over again. And that's easy to see, but many people are listening to the same story over and over and over again. You know, there was a while in my job as a minister, I just thought my job was to listen to people's stories all the time. And I created a bunch of hungry ghosts, people that were never going to be satisfied. Because, you know, that when you are the pattern interrupter, people will go try and find somebody else. But when you listen to the story enough times, they realize, I'm not growing. And there's a part of them, the unconscious, subconscious part that says, you're not causing me to grow. So this community has hired me and everyone on the staff and on the board elected to a job to help you grow, to help you become, to see the eagle, to see the angel, and to call it out when you can't see it for yourself. Is that love? You better believe it is love. I am the person I am today, and I bet you are as well, not the people who pacified you and kept you small, but the people who said, there's more of you to give. I see it, I know it, I claim it, and I want to experience, and I want the world to experience it. Many people listening to the same story, there's a name for that. It's called codependence. And there are a lot of codependent spiritual environments on the planet. Have you found them? They're there. We're not going to be one of them. Being a witness is not just validating somebody's perspective and story and experience. That's step one. It is also holding the higher view and possibility. And that takes a little bit of ruffling around on the trampoline to try and get your timing down. And then you see the look on that face when that person finally gets it. Bam! It's the look of a child, an inner child healed, smiling in joy. I had no idea life could be this good. I had no idea I could soar this high. That allows me to sleep at night. With the stories I carry and the stories you all carry, what allows me to sleep is when we got the timing right, and there you are. And the view of the world and the view of yourself has now changed. My job as your co-creator for good, our job as co-creators, as angels with skin on, in a spiritual community, in a beloved community, is to be your co-creator for good, to not see you as defined, not by the story, but by the higher truth. Not define you by your experience, but by the higher vibration of the Christ, the Buddha, the Atman, the Tao, the magnificent light that you were created in and as that maybe you had forgotten. Rumi, don't take my word for it. This is what Rumi had to say. Let's read it together. You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? I am going to say thank you to every person who said in one form or another those words to me. You were born with wings. Why are you playing small? And I've told this story before, but I will tell it again. My friend Michael Moran, God rest his soul, got into a lot of trouble as a teenager. And his mother came the last time when he was in jail, looking across the bars at him, and all she had to say was, I don't know who you're pretending to be, but I know who you are. And when you figure it out, I'll be back. And she left him in jail for 3 days. He figured it out. That was the moment he became a minister. That was the moment he became an eagle. And it did not look like what was the loving act. Perhaps, as Tanya says, the most loving act was to walk away and say, I don't listen to the story anymore. I know who you are, and when you figure it out, I'll be here. If we're to follow the example of our master teacher who did exactly what Rumi's saying right there, take up your mat and walk. I will not see you as broken. I do not see you as stained. I don't see you as less than. Put on your big boy spiritual pants and let's get on about the business of being magnificent you. That seems so simple. Yet we're waiting to make the phone call. We're waiting to have the conversation. We're waiting to go ahead and have the guts and the courage to say, I know who you are, and when you figure it out, I will be back. Jesus heard a lot of stories. Do you know that? He bore witness to a heck of a lot of humanity, yes? He also refused to let you be defined by your brokenness. It just blows my mind that the entire Christian movement has based the story, the narrative around you're broken and you need to be fixed, when the man that they're worshiping never saw you broken. Never saw you broken, yet we've built a whole religion around you're stained, you're broken, you're less than, and you need to be fixed. I want to counteract that consciousness. That's a consciousness that keeps you forever broken. That's a consciousness that will never heal anything because you've given all the responsibility of something and somebody outside of you to heal yourself. I'm saying you have it within you. The upper room of consciousness. Jesus went to the upper room of consciousness. He went to the high places. He went to the mountains. He says, let's get out of the valley of your story and let's get into the truth of your being. This is what we are called to do. And is it loving? Does it make us uncomfortable? Oh, yeah. I'm sure the two guys, when I said put on your big boy pants, were not comfortable. I was in a men's group one time, and this men's group was an accountability group, and it was honest. And one day I happened to be whining and complaining. And they let me have it. They let me know that I was playing small. I was not living up to the essence of what God chose to do business as me. And I left and got into my car. I was grumbling. They're right. Anybody ever get that? You grumble, you moan, you complain. How loving they are. They didn't listen to my story yet again. And then go 5 minutes down the road and go, damn it, they're right. My daughter did the same thing to me. I've told this story before, but it bears retelling. I was driving down the road, and I was in my story. I was in my diatribe. It was so well rehearsed. I had my souvenir of hells all on display, and I finally took a breath, and she turned to me, and she said, wow, sucks to be you. She was the pattern interrupt that I needed in that moment. She was the one that put a finger in the gap, the leak of all the spiritual energy that I was just letting all go, having given all my power away. And I said, wait a minute, it's not that bad. And the reality is that's what we do for each other, and that is the most loving thing that we can do. Yes, we will have step one. Let me hear your story. I will validate that you've been through some stuff, but I will not let you put a tent up in hell. Run from the people who want you to put a tent up in hell, who will join you in the valley and complain and whine with you because they are keeping you from ascending the heights. They are keeping you from living to the manifestation of your fullness and your glory and your light. They are the ones that are helping us not ever write the new story. Yes? Again, let's go to Rumi. What did Rumi have to say? Next one, this is in relationships. In beloved community, this is what he's asked us to do. Together, be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder. Be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder. I really like the idea of a ladder. Let me put it down into the pit of where you're at. Come on up here. Come on up. I'll go down with you and we'll climb this ladder together. Last week, I asked you as a community sharing stories to ask the question, do you need to be heard? Do you need to be hugged? Or do you need to be helped? And you all love that. But what I find is happening in the human condition is we're really good. I want to be heard. I want to be heard. Yes. Oh, hug me. I want to be hugged. We're good now. I don't really want to be helped because I don't know who I am without my story. I don't really want a ladder because I'm okay. I'm comfortable down here in my pit. So we'll just stop at hearing me and then hearing me again and then hearing me again and then hugging me as I cry. And the reality is there are some people on the planet, I've been one of them, I can be there in a moment, that say, you're not validating my feelings. You're not validating my feelings. I've validated your feelings for the last 5 years. And now in year 6, it's time to no longer validate your victimhood. I see you as a victor. To do anything else is unloving. To do anything but elevate your consciousness to the upper room, to the mountain, is unloving. I want you to be with that for a minute. Share your stories. Let them be heard. Yes, put your ears on the altar. Hug the person who's gone through hell. And then help them out of the pit. Don't put up a tent in hell. Helping is sometimes pulling you up out of your story. Helping you release it to the flames of no more. No more. And then helping you create a new one. Now you do it in love. You're not kicking them out of the hole. You're loving them out of the hole. And what I find is the most effective tool, and John Glasgow said this at first service, is ask better questions. Sometimes we're asking the questions, how does it feel to be a victim? How dark was it really? How deep is the wound? Those are not good questions. They're keeping you stuck. Do you want to feel better? Do you want to be healed? Would you like some help? Ask questions and people will eventually get to their own answers. That's one of the tools to help us elevate for everybody. Let me time the question such that then you are propelled to the higher version of yourself. Every 1,000 years, the mythological bird, the phoenix, Every 1,000 years, that bird thrusts itself into the fires to be reborn and to be renewed. In the Jewish mystical tradition of Kabbalah, it's pronounced both ways, there are 6 periods of 1,000 years before the final redemption. On the 7th time, it's no longer needed. It's complete. 1,000 years represents the end of the limited, finite world and the birthing of a new spiritual story, or a spiritual story revisited and remembered and renewed, one with infinite possibilities. It is the end of the human story, the pattern interrupt, the stopping of the dam, and the beginning of a spiritual story. How many people prefer to live in your human story, in your limited, finite reality, to the spiritual reality of unlimited? Nobody wants to be there, right? So why is it so considered unloving when I call you out, or you call me out on my human story? Ego? Fear? You know, the pain of the known is easier to handle than the fear of the unknown. We're asking you to be mystics, to be comfortable with the mystery. Come on out. Come out of your pit. Here's a ladder. The mystery's fine, but I don't know what's up there. I don't know who I am without my story. Anybody ever feel that? I told my story long enough and somebody told me, knock it off, 2x4 upside the head, quit telling it. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know where to go. I don't have my story anymore. I needed something to hold on to. And then that person said, let me give you a new story. Let me tell you how I see you, how I view you, how I know you. That's the work that we do here in partnership, in collaboration, in synergy, and in oneness. And sometimes it's not comfortable. 1,000 represents as long as it takes for you to get out of the human story and into the spiritual story. There comes a time when we, as spiritual support for each other, help each other take the stories and thrust them into the fire to be purified, to be cleansed, to ascend the skies of rebirth and renewal. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. Knowing that in this collective process of together, we're doing this together. You're doing it for me as I do it for you. And we all are doing it together. We thrust them into the fire for purification to ascend the heights of spiritual possibility. That which you have always been and you forgot. The fall from grace, you forgot, you forgot. I don't care how many times you forget. I just care how many times you remember. And I want to remember together with you as a we, knowing that in that collective process, we are made stronger. You are made stronger. I am made stronger and more resilient and empowered by the willingness to be an angel, to be a ladder, to be a star, to be tough love, to be the Christ, to be an eagle with and for each other. And then when that happens, the last line of that poem is not just a pretty idea, not just a feel-good idea. It becomes our reality. We're not just reaching for the stars. We are becoming them. Together, read that with me. We are not just reaching for the stars. We are becoming them together. Take a breath. What happens here in this room on Sundays, and I've noticed, you may have noticed that the attendance has gone down. I don't know why that is. We started talking about we, and fewer people started coming. Could it be that our stories are more comfortable at home? I'm going to just extend a challenge to everybody who's watching online. Your presence is missed here. You are an angel for somebody in this room that needs you. I think it is so important. And I know, I get it. It is so easy to get up when it's foggy and it's overcast and it's pouring and it's thundering and to go, it's just easier to stay home. You are called to be the light, maybe the Savior for somebody in this room. When you make that decision, don't just make it from a level of comfort. Your story may be the one somebody needs to hear. Your ability to extend a hand or a ladder may be exactly what somebody in this room needs to hear. So when you get to the place where you just don't want to come for somebody else. Because that's what happens in this community. It is healing, it is wholeness, it is angels.